So, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of In Conversation With. So, if you're joining us on the Friday night over on the Azurish Live Twitch.tv channel, thanks so much for tuning in. Please do take part in the chat below. Don't forget to give the channel a follow and get notified, obviously, when we go live with new content. That'd be cool. Equally, if you're watching on Catch Up over on the YouTube channel, please don't forget to click that like button and give us a subscribe to it if you can. That'd be really appreciated. Okay, so something a little bit different for this episode of In Conversation With. My next guest on the show, he's a site reliability engineer working at Microsoft at the moment. He's the producer of several Twitch live streaming channels, including the amazing Patch and Switch show with Rick Claus and Joey Snow. On that note, my next guest on In Conversation With is the one and only Steve, the audio guy, aka Mr. Jared Shockley. Hey Jared, how you doing?
Doing good, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thanks so much for joining me tonight. I think it's going to be quite a little bit of a different video to what I usually produce. So excited to kind of get stuck in. How you doing? Everything good with you?
Everything's going great for me. We're recording this on a day that we had Patch and Switch in the morning. So I just got done, this morning doing Patch and Switch. I'm on call starting this weekend, so I was chatting with you in Discord. I'm like, I gotta run to Costco and get a whole bunch of food before I go on call. So I got that done, and I was literally running in the door before we started.
No, I really appreciate it. I reached out to you. I've been watching you guys do your thing on the on Twitch.tv for a long time. I think I've been bugging Joey and Rick for a number of years in various guises. So I mean, it's great to kind of hook up and catch up with you, and obviously have a chat about a few things. I mean, just before we kick into what we're going to discuss today, I mean, I don't know if you just want to give yourself a quick intro, Jared, and just. I gave you an intro to begin with, but just in your own words, just let people know what you're up to, who you are, and what you like doing, all that kind of stuff.
Well, my name's Jared. I'm an Aries. No, just kidding. I like long walks in the mountains, not on the beach.
Yeah,
I know. I try and be funny. It's always I say try. No, I'm a site reliability engineer. I've been in IT operations for. Good Lord, almost 30 years, 35 years now. It's getting way too long in the tooth there. I did start when I was in college doing consulting for folks in where I went to school. Started a business right out of college and then moved to Seattle and somehow got a job at Microsoft. And I left for a little while, was director of IT for a radiology practice, and then came back to Microsoft. And that's when I started really heavily doing a lot more engineering aspects. Because I went from being a manager back to being an engineer again. And so
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Being a manager is nice, but man, I love the technology, and I'd rather be an engineer versus being a manager.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think like you, I've dabbled in that area in time, and I like you. I always turn back to the tech because I think it's just where the passion is, I guess, isn't it, for some people? But I mean, I guess that's probably led to really me getting a hold of you and just saying, look, Jared, can you do you mind coming on doing one of these shows? Really about the fact that we're all kind of we have been locked in our houses now for the last year or so. We've kind of all been. I don't know, to some extent, working from home with the pets and the kids and the noise of the household, I guess, and we've kind of all got used to this way of working now, I guess. The video conferencing, the Teams chats, and like you do now with the Twitch.tv stuff with Patch and Switch, and I know you've got your own channel starting up with Pierre. Have you started that one yet, Jared, or is that work in progress?
So technically, Pierre and I do a podcast on the Patch and Switch channel called Testing and Production. Pierre is kind of the producer extraordinaire for AZUpdate, part of the IT Ops Talk community. And they're a half hour every Friday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And I think that's what, 7 plus 8, 1500 UTC.
I give up trying to work that out anymore.
Plus 5 minus 7, carry the 2.
Yeah, subtract the 1. Well, we've just got into British summertime now, so we were an hour behind, but now we're an hour ahead. So I mean, it's But yeah, I mean,
It puts
I'll stick links to all the channels in the post that
exactly.
accompanies this anyway. So I urge
So
anybody that's watching this, go and follow Jared, go and follow Patch and Switch, watch those guys, because it's a whole load of fun. It's just getting
it
involved, isn't
is.
it?
It is. And so Pierre and I, what we wanted to do with our with this podcast is get, well, one, we're behind the scenes normally with the other two podcasts. So we want to get in front of the camera. And then but what we're also doing is we're trying things that we want to do in our podcast. That's why we called it
Hmm,
testing and production. So we're
cool.
producing our own podcast, but we're trying things that are going to be used in Patch and Switch and an AZ update. So that's been
That's a pretty cool way of looking at it, I suppose, because I mean, for in case you hadn't guessed it and you're watching this now, I probably have tweeted out prior to this airing of what the conversation is going to be around. But obviously, you, Jared, you've been kind of producing a Patch and Switch show. I know I've reached out to Pierre on a number of occasions to talk about, mics and cameras and boom arms.
Mhm.
And you did a stream, I think, a couple of weeks back on the Patch and Switch show with Testing in
Yeah.
Production podcast, where you and Pierre were kind of doing that, dip behind the scenes. And I thought it's a really good kind of thing for people who find themselves stuck in their house, maybe working off the arm of the chair, working on a tiny little desktop table. That was me, a year ago.
Exactly.
Just to kind of give a little bit of that behind the scenes of, look, how do you start off building this kind of a setup? Well, one, do you need to build this kind of a setup? Because we'll probably get to that, I guess, as we start talking about it, and the whole runaway train with tech that we can kind of find ourselves in.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully, between us now, we'll have a chat of a few things. We'll dip behind the scenes of our setups and have a
Yeah.
bit of a chat around what's going on, if that's cool with you, Jared, and
I'm
hopefully give people some
totally down
tips.
for that. Yeah, I'm totally down for that. Tips. I've had a lot of people ask me. In fact, I actually, my organization has a day of learning every month. And I was actually asked to do for the next day of learning. People found out I did podcasts and did streaming and stuff. And they're like, can you talk to us? Even though we're getting closer to going back potentially to the office, that got pushed. Obviously, it's been announced September 7th now, past the
Mm,
summer. So people are
wow.
trying to figure
Okay.
out, how do I make myself sound better? How do I make myself look better?
Mm,
And we'll definitely talk about that. There are some things that you can do that can improve how you look and how you sound. Just small, simple things. Um, and then there's obviously where you can take it a little too far.
yeah, and I'm sure we'll get to that. I'm sure we'll get to that. And to be honest, I think the key message, I know we'll keep this, lighthearted, I'm sure, as we
Of
go
course.
through, because I find all of this stuff really, enjoyable. It's great to get into. But, on the serious side of it, to say it frankly, you don't have to go as elaborate as some people, and I'll hold my hand up, is that I absolutely didn't need to go as elaborate as I have. But it's your own choice, isn't it? You can. I've got my excuses, I think, is what I'm trying to say, and I think it's just sheer boredom and being locked in a house too long is probably what's done it for me. But I think to try and understand what the point of this video is really to help those people out that maybe don't know which way to turn first. How do I get set up? Literally, if you've got a Teams client on your laptop, you've got a little webcam built into your laptop, and you're used to joining video calls. How do
Mhm.
you take it to the next level, and what does that next level look like? So how do we want to do this, Jared? Should we just jump straight on in and kind of, you
Uh,
won't get this reference, but in the UK we say, look at Bully's special prize, which is basically, this is what this is what it could look like. Um,
uh, the phrase I've always heard is opening up the kimono.
the kimono, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I'll have to use that one.
So,
So
yeah, we can definitely open up the kimono and take a look at what's going on.
right. So, I mean, just the fact that we're recording this session, we're using a program called OBS, so Open
Mhm.
Broadcast Software, I believe it's called, and
Yep.
to do scenes. So, the fact that you can see me and Jared kind of sat side by side with our names and a little animated background and a little flashy logo, they're all kind of elements, aren't they, Jared,
Yes.
in OBS that you can kind of add to. Now, one of the scenes that we can use is this one. Let's jump straight on over to it and hope it all
Okay.
works. There we go.
Yes.
So, I mean, just to explain to people what they're seeing now. So, obviously, there's me up here in the top left and Jared over there in the top right with his phone. And yes, he's using his phone as a camera. And I've got a second camera here. So, you can kind of get to see the behind the scenes of what we've both got going on here. So,
Mhm.
I mean, should we start at the kind of the level of what OBS is, maybe, Jared, and maybe talk
Sure.
around a few options around that and why OBS? There's lots of other products, and maybe talk around that. So, do you use OBS, the full fat open source
Yes, I
platform,
do. There's
OBS?
my OBS right there.
So, in terms of what that does, Jared, it's essentially like I just kind of described to people now. It's how you can kind of lay out all these components, isn't it, on what they call a scene. So, what this video has been recorded, and obviously, I can kind of try and move my camera, and this will go a little bit Inception, but there's my OBS setup there, and that's effectively what's being recorded. And what you're showing, Jared, is obviously your scene collection of.
This is. And I'm able to have multiple scene collections. So right here, I'm showing off my personal stream. I can actually go into the collection and switch to, here's the patch and switch scenes. And I can have different scenes for different usage. Here's testing and production for, as a matter of fact. So this is where we use like the, and the great thing about it is OBS can take assets, and that's what all the video, all the icon, all the text is it what they call an asset. And it can arrange it on the screen and then be able to run things. For example, here it has a little video that says the stream is starting. I actually have a script that actually will count down. I can actually put in and say, hey, I want to count down 60 seconds, go. And now it's counting down 60 seconds, or I can have it count down to a time. So this way I can start the stream, have maybe some music play in the background, but no voices, no nothing, and it allows people to join the stream and be ready for it.
And you've gone frozen there. I mean, this is obviously recorded. This video is kind of a feat in its own right. What we're trying to do, but you've frozen at the minute, Jared. So I think that might be. I think it might be a problem. I mean, just for those that let's do it behind the scenes. So this is the software that I'm using now to bring Jared in. It's OBS. It's a free bit of software called OBS.Ninja, and you can bring in camera feeds. So I don't know if you're able to kind of try and re-add yourself back into that scene, Jared.
I was just gonna play around with that and switch inputs to see if that fixes it.
There we go. There we go.
It.
So you're back up and running. But I mean, that's quite a cool little thing. So you can see that it's not without its faults. All of this stuff and gluing it all together is probably fair to say it's not for the faint-hearted at times. It can get a little bit gnarly.
It can. Now, I've purchased assets. If you take a look here, the testing in production, and then when I jump over here again back to mine, let's see, is that what freezes us? Oh, I know what it is. I actually know what it is. My OBS is trying to steal my camera every time.
Yeah.
There we go. And I just have to have OBS Ninja come back again.
Yeah.
So I've purchased these assets from a third-party company.
Yeah.
Which makes it easier for me to set these scenes up.
Because you don't. I mean, I suppose one of the so to start off, what we're trying to say is that you don't need to be this elaborate. We've opened the what was it, Kimono? Did you say, Jared?
Open the kimono. Like a Japanese
a kimono. Yes, the kimono. Absolutely. Yes. I just didn't get it there for a second. I'm too slow today. But you obviously don't have to be this elaborate. I think OBS is a good place to start because one, it's free. It's a free bit of software. It's an open bit of software. You can download there's loads of plugins available for it to do all sorts of fancy things, isn't there?
Oh God, yeah.
And I guess a good way to describe it is a little bit like PowerPoint with a twist. I guess is probably a way.
Having used TriCaster software, which, by the way, TriCaster is what most small television stations use. I've used the TriCaster software, and OBS is a light version of TriCaster, which is is example. TriCaster Professional is what the Channel 9 studios use for live broadcasting on Channel 9. They have the big fancy board with all the bells and whistles.
And I guess, I mean, there are other stuff because I've seen a few online versions of this now. You've got things like StreamYard, which offer really good services. They offer like a
Oh
free
yeah.
base, don't they? That you can just hook your camera in. You
Yep.
you can upload some graphics, so you can either get like you've done, Jared. I guess you can go to a third party, buy some graphics overlays and
Yep.
backgrounds, and upload them. Or you can use the stock images that they may have there, and they look great. You know, they look fantastic, and they give that professional look and feel
Oh
with
yeah.
I guess they're trying to abstract away a lot of the complexity maybe that OBS adds in, because you kind of have to be quite finicky with what scenes and what objects you put on your scene. But the point is, you could literally drag a camera, stick a camera on your scene, put some imagery behind it, put some text, use this thing called virtual camera. So you can see, I'll just show my OBS there, but you can see I've
Yep.
got, if it auto focuses, I've probably taken, but you can see that I got a little button there, stop virtual camera. So
Yep.
what that does, if you turn on virtual camera, you can literally go into your Teams client and select that as your video source rather than just having your camera. So you end up being able to put all this fancy stuff on, don't you?
Yes.
And kind of share that out.
And one of the
So
great things you brought up, StreamYard. That is a great alternative, and that's what AZUpdate actually uses is StreamYard
yeah,
because they went with StreamYard so that anyone could actually direct a show. Because that actually happened one time where Pierre couldn't show up for one. They were trying to transfer the assets. They were trying to do. Oh my god, it was so difficult.
yeah.
So now they just go up to StreamYard and go click, 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 and away they go.
Yeah, and it's a great. I know a few people that use it, and it really is good. I think once it's one of these things where you start off. I think you start off, you can broadcast in 720p, which
Mhm.
I mean, let's face it, is good enough for most applications. And I think if you wanted to broadcast in full HD, so 1080p, you have to
Mhm.
pay a subscription, a monthly subscription. I think it works out, don't quote me, but it's about 15 or £20 a month from memory. So,
Mhm.
it's one of those things, but obviously you don't need to start there. So I guess the first tip we're trying to say is OBS, StreamYard. They're probably two of the more prominent
Yep.
bits of software. Would you say? I mean, I
I'd
know
say
there are
those
other
2.
things.
There's also Streamlabs OBS. Now, the difference
Yes.
between Streamlabs OBS and the OBS project is Streamlabs takes the OBS project and integrates their products into it. Streamlabs is a company that offers a whole bunch of if you especially if you're a Twitch streamer or a YouTube streamer, it's gonna add in a whole bunch of capabilities for subbing, for donating money, for merch, all sorts of extra capabilities.
and
But
and
you
it's,
don't
it's
need any of
lightweight
that.
as well. It's lightweight, isn't it? I think Streamlabs
Mhm.
is based in the browser rather than OBS. So Streamlabs OBS is kind of browser based, so it's a lot
No,
lighter on the.
actually, it's a client just like the OBS software.
Okay, okay. I mean, it just seems
Download it.
really lightweight. It's a lot less harsh on your CPU and GPU. And you've frozen again there, Jared. There we go. And as if by magic, we're back working again. So I paused the video there a second. Obviously, we had a bit of a disconnect. Again, these are the things that go on. I think that was my fault there, Jared. But
It's okay. Just remember, I hate as I sometimes like to point out, John, you're on the other side of the pond.
well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is a mini miracle in itself. Yeah. I mean, we've got, what have we got now? We've got two camera feeds from both of
Mhm.
us, all being fed into OBS, and it's doing all that processing, and it's also recording this session. So
Yep.
I don't know what else we need. For home use. So I
Exactly.
mean, shall we move on to something else now? We've touched on OBS
Sure.
there, which I think is, don't get me wrong. I think from my point of view, OBS, there are a lot of learnings. I think I started using OBS. It's probably early last summer, or if not a little bit before then, and it took me a fair while. And there was some people on Twitch. There was Harris Heller that I watch a lot of his videos. There's a guy in Australia called Nutty. He's got a YouTube channel and a Twitch channel. They give, I mean, just go and look at those guys. They give some great tips. They got some great YouTube videos on kind of how to kind of get started. But then, like anything, you get started and then you want to do something a little bit different, and you end up in a world of pain, like we are now.
Well, and part of that's also you watch others doing it. You watch others,
Yeah,
I watch a lot of streamers. I love watching people who both are on YouTube and edit videos versus the live stream, and look
Mm.
at the differences in how they manage things. I have a personal one of my personal favorites on both streaming and in recordings is a gamer called from Canada called Smitty.
Okay.
It's he plays a lot of different games. He's a funny person. He's not very good at any game, but he's pretty good at all games.
Yeah.
He's hilarious in my mind. Sometimes he plays with guys who I question what they think humor really is, but other people he plays with, it's just you just end up laughing the whole time you're watching these videos, and it's a great time to be had in these scenarios.
Well, I think that I mean, it depends which way you look at it. But I'm not a gamer, but
Yeah.
I've got a 14-year-old son who is a gamer, and
Hmm.
you can imagine what he uses when he does his streaming. You know, he
Oh yeah.
comes on. He's got a timeshare on my setup, so I say it's our setup. Of course, it's our setup, isn't it? You know, that was
Of
the only
course.
way that he'd let me buy it. But no, so. But it's an important point, I think, Jared, just to kind of point that out, to put a serious spin on it. I think there's probably a
Mhm.
lot of parents, you know, a lot of people of our generation with young kids that for years, no doubt they've had, Dad, Mum, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to do some streaming. And I was certainly guilty of it going, oh, yeah, whatever. You know, you've got an Xbox or you've got a PlayStation. I thought, hang on a minute, you know, what the kids
Mhm.
actually, you know, what they can learn in doing this is learning all this cool tech, which you
Of
know,
course.
on one hand may seem irrelevant to the layperson, but I mean, my belief is that they're actually learning quite a lot of valuable lessons in tech. You know,
Mhm.
from video production to graphics to all sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just that, they're also learning creativities because they have
Mm.
to try and make these streams. They can't just sit there and, "Hi, my name is Jared. I'm going to play some Diablo 3. Here we go. Wow, this is great." I mean, if you watch some of my streams, uh, a lot of time, I mean, as I have put it, my primary Discord server that I'm on with friends is called Bad Gamers Unite because we are
Yeah.
horrible
Okay.
gamers. We suck, but we have fun.
But I mean, and that's all it's about, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
all of this stuff kind of just comes from just getting involved, having a bit of a laugh, and seeing where it goes.
Yep.
Come on, let's move it on to something then. Let's talk about
Okay.
monitor setups. Let's talk about
Okay.
monitor setups because I've certainly had a lot of questions around, you know, the monitor
Hmm.
setup that I've got. Which I mean, I've got a workstation over there, which is my workstation, and
Yep.
then I've got a couple of vertically aligned monitors, one either side, which are 27-inch with a
Hmm.
central 32-inch kind of curved monitor. Um,
Hmm.
I'll show that up there at the moment. I'll try and I've got a projector above my head, which is there, which
Oh wow.
shines onto the wall in between two things, and I've also got a little Surface Go down there, and
Yes.
I've got a little Echo Show, and it goes on. Now, let's
Yes.
start on. Why do we need more than one monitor, Jared?
Well, we need most of the time we need more than one. At least me when I'm streaming. It depends on what I'm streaming. When I'm streaming for myself, my games will be on this monitor to the left.
Yeah,
So I'll have the game playing full screen over here. And then I'll have all my streaming information, chat, and you name it over here on the right.
yeah.
And now, if I'm streaming patch and switch, I'll have the chat rooms over here, as well as I have separate uh, web browsers for when I'm showing off a web page on stream, and then I have our Showbot page for titles. And then I'll have the OBS and other asset windows that I need to manage over here in the right. That's how I set myself up.
Hmm. I think.
When I and the reason why I have two monitors is because I need a lot of room when I'm doing a stream. I have two 28, I believe these are 28-inch monitors from Samsung,
Mhm.
and they're gaming quality, but they're a few years older gaming quality. Now, when I'm doing patch and switch, I have a third monitor over here.
Yeah.
And this one is connected to the Xbox One when I'm not playing games.
Right. Yeah.
And so I'll have the Twitch stream up here where I can actually I have it up and muted so that I can check it out and make sure that okay, is everything going okay? I'll every once in a while I'll mute myself on my microphone and then I'll check the audio and the video and make sure everything's good over there.
Mm.
Now for my day job, I use these two monitors. That third monitor is still on the Xbox and I watch videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my fourth machine over here. So this is my
Yeah.
this is my what we call a PAW or a SAW, privileged or secure access workstation.
Okay. Yeah.
This is
You
what
got
I
your little
access
UB
production
key.
systems with.
You got your little UB key in the side of it there, is it?
Yep,
And
I got the little UV
yeah.
key over there on the side. Yep.
Yeah.
So, but that's how I set up my monitors. And these two are 4K monitors, and I'm running them off of my desktop, which is underneath my desk. As you
Mm-hmm.
can see, it's a Doghouse system. You know, let's shout out to Doghouse for the awesome system that they built me.
Yeah.
And it has a I got lucky because it has an RTX 3080 video
Oh
card.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
You did get
yeah,
lucky. But how long?
I
How
did
long
get
did?
lucky.
Yeah. Because
I got it in a week, by the way.
wow.
They
What are the
expedited my order.
just as they came out? Yeah. Because how long they been out now? The 3080s about four or
Couple
5
months.
months.
I got mine in January because my machine, my prior machine, I was doing everything on. By the way, back when I was first doing the Patch and Switch podcast before I got this new box, my CPU was maxed out. It was a Core i7.
Yeah.
CPU was maxed out. Everything was maxed out. I didn't have that good a video card. So, I mean, I was at 100% CPU. There were a couple
Yeah.
times we actually lost the stream because my CPU basically shut down.
Yeah.
With this one, I am about 30% for patch and switch. And when I'm streaming a game, like when I'm playing Diablo, the only time I hear the fans come on is when I'm playing a 4K game, or I don't play it in full 4K, but I play it in
Yeah.
1440.
And I suppose that's a valid point to bring up now. So when we talk about monitors, you mentioned you got 4K monitors. Now I didn't go for 4K mainly because I'm not a gamer. I knew my son was going to do some gaming, but I thought he can make do with HD monitors, you know. And I think I got 144 hertz. So really, what we're talking about, to kind of boil it down, is the quality and the granularity, the kind of the resolution that you can get on those monitors. Yeah. So
Oh, yeah.
the clarity of the screen. So if you're kind of looking to do to up your game with Teams meetings and Zoom meetings, then you probably don't need to go anywhere near that kind of level. And obviously the graphics cards, I mean, I'll just pan over to my computer setup there. So this is something that I built in the summer last year. Mine's a 2070 Super. So I bought that 2070 Super just before the 3000 series cards came out. And basically, they're workhorses, yeah? I mean, that'll power... that'll power a small city, I think. But they are like powerhouses. But the point is, you don't need all of this. Yeah, if you're going to do gaming, I think the key to note here, especially when you talk about CPU. So I've got an AMD Ryzen 9 5650 in there. So it's the one down from the Threadripper. So it's kind of like fast.
Oh darn! It doesn't have that last little step.
Well, I thought you can take things too far.
No.
But the point is, obviously, if we look at the monitor setups, it's just about having that real estate available to you, isn't it? And one thing that I found, especially when, there's multiple angles to this, but if you're gaming, you're also recording or streaming, that is a very processor intensive thing. So you kind of need to have a decent graphics card for things like that. But I think if you're just doing work meetings or you just want to do a presentation, look, you don't really need that. You can get away with having a, Core i5, Core i7, something like that, and a bit of RAM in there. Do you think, Jared?
I would watch so as an example, I'll show this off real quick. I have for my work computer, technically, is this Intel 10th generation Nook behind it. And I love it as a work computer. I love it because it's so small, yet it's an i7. It's a powerful little box. I actually have 32 gigs of RAM, and I can extend it to 64 gigs of RAM. Here's the drawback. It has integrated graphics.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Every time I'm running Teams, you can tell.
Mm.
And anytime I'm running Zoom, you can tell. Anytime I'm running any sort of video software, OBS, you name it, when you're running integrated graphics, you will run into issues. It is better to have some sort of dedicated graphics capability. Sometimes laptops will say, yes, we have the dedicated RTX or dedicated AMD or dedicated NVIDIA. When they say that, that means they do have a separate video card on the motherboard instead of the integrated graphics typically.
Hmm.
Those will give you better capabilities, even in just doing meetings for online video meetings.
So I guess
Um,
to kind of explain with integrated graphics, the graphics
mhm,
process is actually being carried out by the same chip that is like kind of running all your applications. So if you
yep,
start like a video intensive program like Teams or Zoom, it's going to suck the energy away from your computer just being able to kind of display the Teams client or open your PowerPoint presentation. So, I mean, that's a
correct.
great tip, actually. I suppose to relate it to if you're a non techie and you're watching this, um, hello, first off.
Hello.
um, but I mean, it's a great tip because I think sometimes a lot of people I speak to, outside of the tech world are very much kind of business people and they're not necessarily interested. And you hear all these fancy terms like integrated graphics. And for a lot of people, I'm sure it's over their heads. What does it mean? But to try and boil it down, if you are running integrated graphics, then as soon as you do something that's going to take a lot of processing power with graphics, it's going to take that away from the rest of your PC experience, I guess, isn't
Oh yeah. And
it?
what you have
So,
to worry about then is, let's say you open up Teams and you're given a presentation. Close everything else. Don't leave your email running. Don't leave those web
mm,
browsers running. Oh my goodness. Browsers are the worst things to have running when you're trying to do some sort of presentation.
yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, and okay. Shall we move on to the next bit? So I think we've kind of
Sure.
said monitor setup. It's
Yep.
about real estate. It's about having space. Do
Mhm.
you need 8 monitors?
No.
No.
Do you want to have 8 monitors? Yes.
Yeah, and I think personally, I've justified them to myself as to why I've got so many. It sounds stupid. I can't justify it. It's just good fun for me. But to kind of bring it down to, if you've got a single monitor and
Mhm.
you want to do something with OBS, it's not that you can't run it from a single monitor. You absolutely can, because you can kind of put elements on the screen where you use what they call window sources rather than display captures.
Mhm.
But it becomes difficult. And I think most people would soon find just moving to a second monitor will be a breath of fresh air, because you've basically got one monitor. You can do all your streaming, your video recording, whatever it may be. The other
Yep.
monitor is the stuff you're working on. And I think it's probably fair to say let's bring in this element of I don't know what the term is, but it's like a tech snowball effect. As soon as you go to two monitors, you find a reason that you need that third monitor. Then you can
Yep.
guarantee you will want a third monitor.
Oh
And in
yeah.
my case, I've got to 4 or 5 now, and I think basically I've run out of ports on my graphics card, so I'm going to have to get another graphics card now.
Or you
But
get another computer that just does certain things that you can remotely control to see that
mhm.
monitor.
And
One
that's
thing we had in our office, just to, not to justify this for anyone, but if you're in operations, you could have a second computer with your dashboards up on a monitor above your desk. So you can just look up and see, oh, hey, yeah, all my servers are okay. They're green, and go back to
yeah.
work.
No, absolutely, and that's where a lot of people in I suppose, I don't know what but places like stock exchanges, they're renowned for having multiple monitors with all the various stock prices on. I suppose tech maybe is the next industry that
uh, I can tell you two industries that definitely do, and one is the treasury or exchanges like that. Because I used to run IT for Microsoft's treasury, and yes,
Okay.
we had 4 to 6 monitors at every workstation in the trading room, and we actually had a trading room that looked like a bank or a financial trading room
Mm.
at Microsoft, and that's still there. It's an amazing technological capability. The
Yeah.
other one was I went to radio. I told you I left Microsoft for a while and went to a radiology practice.
Yeah.
Radiology, lots of
Wow.
monitors, plus the monitors that they read on are specific medical grade that you have to purchase
Okay.
because it has to meet FDA requirements.
Mm.
You can't just have any old monitor.
I mean, I suppose we're into a completely different world of conversation then, especially when you go into kind of very niche specifics for
Oh yeah,
hardware.
yeah.
And that's the point, isn't it? Sometimes some of these bits of hardware are available for kind of consumer purchase.
Hmm.
So if you're a techie, I guess you find a reason that you need one of those super high grade monitors, I'm sure, and you save up your hard earned money and go and buy one. So let's shift on to the next component then,
I
hey
I
Jared.
always
Let's
laugh though. My IT team would always take the hand me downs of the medical grade monitors that just didn't meet the standards anymore, and they would use them.
okay.
They were perfectly fine, but they
Yeah.
just didn't meet the standards anymore for the medical grade.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, I mean that's it. I mean, to be honest, if you work for a company and they are doing a hardware refresh, which I mean,
Hmm.
I guess that there probably are lots of companies doing hardware refreshes because I'm guessing a lot of people or a lot of businesses have had to buy a copious amount of laptops and may have desktops and monitors sat round in offices that aren't being used. Maybe approach a company, see if you can get another monitor or two. I'm sure there's a few floating around there,
Might
that
might be
aren't being
some on
utilised.
Craigslist or even Facebook Marketplace for sure. Yeah.
And just to reiterate, they don't have to be this super 4K.
No,
I
no.
mean, to be honest with you, Jared, the one thing that's caught my eye to stick on the monitor front are these ultra wide monitors. I got a
Hmm.
few friends that have got those now, and they do look nice. They do look very
They're
nice, and
pretty.
it's just trying to find right where can I fit one. But I mean, you're talking quite serious money as well. So I think genuinely, if you are looking for a second monitor, then yeah, do that. It doesn't have to be anything spectacular at this stage. You can kind of branch out in that way.
Yeah.
What should we go on to
One
next? Go on.
one last thing on the monitors. Always check out specials at places. I think in the US you'd be looking at like Best Buy or Costco.
Hmm.
In the UK, I know there's a what's that one electronics chain that's just like has box stores all over the place. I'm trying to remember.
Well, yeah, there used to be one called Maplin, but that's gone.
Yeah.
There's,
Oh, it's gone
yeah,
now. Oh.
well, yeah, I've not seen them around. I think they've shut up a lot of shops. I'm guessing they're still there. But in the UK, I mean, Scan is a good place to go in the UK, but they are a high end
Yeah.
IT, sort of
Yeah.
supplier. Just jump on Amazon. I mean, Amazon, it's the shop of the world, isn't it? At the moment, you get
Eh.
anything on Amazon. Um,
I don't know if I want to support those guys, but
Well, no, I know. Maybe, yeah, maybe not. I don't know what to say there. I think,
I'm kidding. I'm
I,
kidding. I'm totally kidding. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of good. Like I said, there's a lot of good companies that have their sites set up. In this case, Best Buy in the U.S. Like I said, it's all over.
mm,
Micro Centers in the East Coast. Or actually the Midwest in the East, in the U.S. And then, like I said, Costco. That's where I purchased these at Costco, and they were at the time $150 a piece, which was
yeah.
like US, which is huge for two
And to
4K
be honest,
monitors. 150. Yeah,
I mean that's a great price for a 4K monitor. But I think even if you were looking at just getting, don't I would be shocked to see if there were any monitor that was sub HD 1080p now. I mean, I'd be shocked if there were
exactly.
still some floating
Exactly.
around. So even going on to Facebook Marketplace, eBay, look at the second-hand monitors. And if you can't get one from work,
Sure.
you probably pick something up for 20, £30, no doubt, easily,
Oh
I
yeah.
would have thought.
For
Um,
sure.
if people aren't giving them away, because I know sometimes people just have these things collecting dust, don't they? But
Yep.
anyway, that's the monitor front. Hopefully
Monitor
we've.
side. Let's. Why don't we take a look at the next thing?
What do you want to do next? Should we go camera?
We could definitely talk camera. Camera is an interesting combination because its camera is typically a combination of the camera and potentially a capture device.
Yes. Okay. So what? Right. So I suppose should we start off with what you can use? So what has everybody got generally? If you've got a laptop or a desktop, more often than not, you've probably got some form of a webcam. There we go. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if I
you
can
got the
move,
little webcam in the top of the
I
case.
can't move mine. Yeah, I can't move mine close enough. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, that's probably where most people are probably starting from, I'd imagine, more often than not. Or, I mean, the camera I'm using here, actually, if I hold it up to this camera, you can see I've just got a little, that's a 1080p camera. It probably cost me about 30 or £40
Yep.
off our favourite
That's
company.
exactly.
And I think I've got another. I got cameras everywhere. I got camera up there, little wireless camera. There, I think I've. Yeah, I got another one on the windowsill over there somewhere. But you can buy them. They're USB cameras, aren't they? And I think.
Yep.
Have you got any recommendations? I always tell people don't buy anything less than a HD camera. You know,
I agree. Don't buy anything less than HD. If you're looking honestly, the soft or the one that every video streamer or blogger that's doing a sit down or where they're what I call stationary type uh,
mhm.
uh, view is the Logitech 920,
Yes, yeah,
and that thing's been sold out since the beginning of
yeah.
the pandemic.
I,
You
I,
can't
I
buy
I
them.
actually, I mean, what are they? They are a little bit more pricey. I think they're up in the, I mean, in UK, they're probably about £120 or so, which I guess
Yep.
what is probably pushing the $190 mark. Is it something like that?
Actually, 149 is what we're seeing for
Okay.
pre-COVID prices, but
Okay. Yeah.
post-COVID,
Yeah. 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 I mean, to be honest, that's the problem at the moment. A lot of IT kit has been inflated. I think that goes across the board because everybody needs to buy it now. Everybody is at home and needing to buy it. But
exactly.
I actually tried to buy a Logitech when I bought this one,
Mhm,
and I settled for that purely to kind of prove that you didn't need to go too fancy with the camera.
mhm,
And you know, the things to consider, obviously, the size that we've got the cameras on the screen here now, and
mhm.
undoubtedly, if you're watching this video, you may very well be watching it on a mobile device. So,
Yeah,
yes, it may be a HD camera, but it's such a small resolution. Then it doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter if
mhm.
you've not got a 4K camera or something, because you're not going to be recording at that scale, are you? I guess. Um,
No.
so, I mean, where can it go then? So obviously, the way I see it, Jared, is that you've got this concept of webcams. So you've got the
Mhm,
cameras built into laptops. You've got the USB cameras, like we've just shown, that you can go and buy for, 30, £40 maybe, and up to, I mean, is it the Logitech Brio is the
yeah,
4K camera, isn't it, from Logitech? And I
it
think
is.
that then,
The Brio is the 4K, yep.
I think that takes it up to the next level. I think they're about £200 mark, something like that. So
Sounds about right, 200, 250 US for
you're
sure.
starting to talk proper money now, aren't you, really, with kit? And
You definitely are. In
so,
my case, I went a different route.
yeah.
I have right here is my main camera. I'll try and go above it. It's a Panasonic Lumix G100. Came out last fall, and this
Hmm.
is it's called a vlogger camera because it's meant to be used. It's mirrorless. It's meant to be used by vloggers that are doing a lot of handheld, or maybe it's turned around. When I have it out of this mount, I can actually flip the monitor around, so I can actually, do selfie with it, but then
Hmm.
see the video because it's right there, pointed
Yes,
back
yeah,
at me.
little display, yeah. So,
Exactly.
I mean, I
And
guess
for
that.
the out, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I guess that's taking it to another level, then, isn't it, Jared? In
Yes.
terms of, go on, carry on. What were you going to show us then?
I was just going to show that on the back here, you can kind of see it has the output right there, the red cable. That's a mini HDMI. And this camera has two basic outputs. It's got the mini HDMI, and then it's got a micro USB. I
Hmm.
have the mini HDMI that runs down here, and then it goes into this panel right behind here, as you can see.
Hmm.
And that is a Cam Link 4K that it's plugged into. And then it's plugged into an IO Gear USB 3 switch.
So that's the Elgato cam link, I think I saw there, isn't it?
Yes,
So
it
that
is.
is,
Yep.
yeah. So Elgato, we'll probably get to. We'll be talking about Elgato a bit more in a second. I have no
Oh
doubt.
yeah.
So Elgato are probably seen as one of the probably most successful companies, maybe out of this whole streaming
For sure.
unfortunate COVID position that we find, because they do all sorts, don't they? But I mean,
Mhm.
I'll show mine. So I'll show my so the main camera that I'm videoing on now. There's my camera. It's a Canon M50D. Now, I suppose why are we showing these cameras, Jared? I think, like yours, mine's got a HDMI out and it goes over. I don't have the Elgato. I've got one of those little captured
Yeah.
cards, and I've also got one hidden behind. See, I do have cable problems, but I just hide them away. So I've got
I
a similar one to the
yeah.
Elgato capture card, but it was a bit cheaper and it wasn't a 4K. So, in other
Mhm.
words, if you want to capture video footage from a device, and it's a real point to talk about these, because a lot of people do have DSLR mirrorless cameras that
Mhm.
they've purchased over the years for obviously for taking pictures, and just with a few little modifications, rather than having it powered by a battery, you can buy a little dummy battery and plug
Yep.
it in, so you
Yep.
kind of don't have to keep charging the thing. So that at the bottom there, my cable is actually just being is plugged into a little dummy bit of plastic. It's like a little dummy battery, isn't it, Jared?
Yep.
Um,
Mine has the same thing. You can see the cable here, and it rolls around, and then it plugs in up underneath there. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So I think the point is, I mean, why do we want to use DSLR mirrorless cameras? If we imagine the Logitech C 920 or 925,
Mhm.
or even the Brio, a kind of, it's probably fair to say they're the top end of the webcam range. You know, I'm sure there's other brands that are equally as comparable, but maybe
Yeah.
for our conversation, that's where we'll baseline it. Why? What are the benefits from your point of view, Jared, in going for a DSLR or a mirrorless camera?
For me, I went with the Lumix, partially on a recommendation from someone because the G100 was just coming out, and I got it on special.
Hmm.
And I was looking for a camera not only to do webcam like this, but also I wanted to be able to start doing videography. Period. Take it
Yeah,
out. I like to take road trips. I like to take. I love to travel, and that's the thing that's killed me the last years. I haven't been able to
yeah,
travel. When I can travel again, I want a camera that I can take with me to do videography on the road,
mm,
be able to shoot that video and be able to shoot, vlogs of me,
mm,
in my travel. When I started taking a look, the Lumix offered me all that. Now, there's one thing that Panasonic is in the middle of doing is they're building at what they call a webcast software, and it's for the Lumix series. It works on all the Lumixes except for the G100 right now.
okay,
But,
yeah.
but it allows me to attach the camera via USB 3
Do you
on
know
my
that's
phone.
what I've got on the Canon? That's they've released a beta version of the web. So
Mhm,
you'll have spotted that I had
mhm.
two cables going in there
Yep,
on the side. One is the
yep,
HDMI, the other one is a USB cable. And
yep.
if I show you down here, if I can find it there somewhere, I don't know if I've actually got it, but you can
Sources.
see that I've got one called main webcam HDMI. I've actually got a USB version of that.
Mhm.
It works, and I've noticed that the USB has got an ever so slightly slower frame rate. So if I do that on USB, there's a bit more of a ghosting effect. Now,
Mhm.
whether or not that is because that cable is going straight into a USB 3 socket on my computer, so it's got the throughput, for
Right.
that speed. But I've noticed, literally, I've had a compare, like split screen. One is HDMI, one is USB, and you can just kind of see that. So if you get that for your camera, that'd be something to watch out for, because definitely on the Canons,
Oh
I
yeah.
always stick with HDMI on mine now. But I guess go on, Jared. What are you going
I
to
was
say?
just gonna say I prefer the HDMI personally.
Yeah,
USB does not, even at USB 3, I don't see it offering the throughput that HDMI does. And frankly, when you have something like an Elgato, like that Cam Link, like my Elgato Cam Link that I have in here.
yeah,
The great thing about the Elgato Cam Link that I absolutely adore is they don't have any special drivers. I can install it
Yeah.
on literally any machine. I can actually, even though technically this is I am a restricted user on this machine,
Hmm.
I can still plug my cam link into that and get the base drivers it needs to work.
Oh, cool. I mean, is it worth explaining what a cam link is to maybe people that don't know what it
Sure, we
is?
can definitely talk about that. What the cam link is, it's a physical device that takes an HDMI signal and converts it for use in any video software. It comes up as a camera source to Windows or Mac. Now, Mac, you have to have a special driver for. Windows, it's built in, which is why I prefer the Elgato Cam Link. Is they use the standardized Windows driver. You
Hmm.
don't have to have any special software or any special driver.
But I guess it's probably just because, like we were talking about then, a lot of these
Mhm,
DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, I
mhm.
suppose because they've traditionally come from that photography or maybe videography kind of background, they've not necessarily been geared up to actually have a driver pack to work with a computer and pull that image through via a USB. And so that Camlink device does that conversion. That's basically it, isn't it? In
Yeah.
summary, to kind of get the feed. Now, some of the things to look out for if you do have a DSLR, and it happens to be on my Canon M50D, I don't have clean HDMI output. Have
Mhm.
you come across this, Jared, in terms
Yes,
of
I
with
have.
your camera?
Not with
So what
this
I
one,
have
with
to do,
others.
yeah, and to be honest, I bought this camera a while back and kind of have retrofitted it to suit. And I think what that means is that the display on the back of the cameras that has got like your autofocus and all the gubbins, like the on-screen display of how much exposure you've got, whether you're in
Mhm.
landscape mode, all the little pretty images. That will actually come out down the HDMI stream. So when you plug a cam link in on your screen, like so my video now that I'm looking at there, I've actually managed to turn everything off on my camera, the display on my camera, and the only disadvantage that I've got with this now is that I can't use autofocus. Because if I
Yep.
had autofocus on, I would get that little green box that's trying to track my face, and I couldn't remove that from my
Mhm,
display. So I've had to. So you'll find that even when I lift up things like that,
mhm.
it doesn't focus on it. It doesn't autofocus. It looks blurry. So I've had to
Correct.
set my camera to focus on my face here. So that is a downside. But we're
But
talking.
that's different though, because there are specific models like the Lumix is actually set up. And let me hold up a remote control here and see if I can get it to zoom in. It will. It might not.
It won't do it
Uh,
now. You can guarantee that.
oh yeah. Now that I've mentioned it,
Yeah.
it's uh the Lumix actually you can shut that off, and the mode actually is set that when I plug in something HDMI, that's when it shuts it off.
Ah, right. Yeah, with you. That's
So
well,
I
and
have that
that's
mode set.
and they're valid things to look out for. If you are gonna go a little bit more elaborate, then you want to look at. Obviously, you're not just going to do what I do and just turn up at a tech shop and go, "I'll have one of those."
Yep.
Do a bit of research because there are some hidden pitfalls and gotchas, I guess, with cameras.
Pros
And
and
one
cons.
thing that yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things, maybe we won't talk too much about it now because I'm conscious of time now. We're doing well here, and I'd like to get on to other elements of the setup if we can
Yep.
quickly. But camera lenses as well is a big thing.
Yes.
And personally, I've started. So obviously, the frame that I've got at the moment of how you're viewing me, I'm
Mhm,
using a stock. I think it's a 15 to 55 mil lens, so I can kind of
mhm,
zoom in and out to a certain extent.
mhm.
I get a little bit of background blur, but you can obviously buy like photography, like professional photographers can do. You can
Oh
buy
yeah.
different lenses that give you. I mean, have you delved? Maybe we won't dig into it too
I'm
much
s-
because that's probably
I'm
go
starting
on.
to delve into that because I am a photographer by trade, actually.
Okay, yeah,
So
okay,
mine is a 12 to 32, and if I go in here, so I can zoom in that tight. Yee.
yeah,
Um, or I can zoom out actually pretty wide angle, and you can see more of my background.
yeah,
My preference is to have just a bit of zoom, right
yeah.
about there. Oops, it's a
I mean,
little too far.
I mean, and that's it, because there are all sorts of lenses. So you can get what they call prime lenses, which are kind of
Yes.
fixed distance lenses. So you can't zoom in and out. You have to put it
Oh,
at the distance that is going to set your scene how you want it. So be careful
exactly.
with the prime lenses, because it might not be suited for what. But equally, yeah, I'm like you, to be honest, Jared. I think I zoom in slightly, because if I zoom out, you'll see all the nonsense that I've got going on this side of the wall, which is just
Oh yeah.
obviously we only show the bit that looks neat and tidy, don't we? Yeah, you do
Exactly.
the
If I
same.
open this up, you'd see all the crap on the sides, and I have a nice cone of clean going
Well,
back.
my son laughs at me, because if I just shift my chair and you see the bottom half of my shelf, it's all neat
Yep.
and tidy from that level up, and the bit that
Of
I'm in the
course.
way of is is like a bomb site. But
Well, and if you take a look at my shelf off to my shoulder, you can see it's nice and tidy. I have my awards and stuff. What you don't see is the whiteboard straight behind my head.
well, but these are all tricks, eh? These are all the things.
Exactly.
I mean, just conscious of time, Jared. But let's
Yeah.
try and let's kick over to what should we do next?
Well, let's
Microphones.
talk about the two things that are most important when it really comes to a setup.
Yeah,
The first one is microphones. Let's talk microphones.
let's do it. So I've heard a lot of
Don't use your
arguments.
laptop microphone. Just don't do it.
Give us a 10-second reason not to use your laptop microphone, because I've had probably exactly the same problems. Why shouldn't we use our
They suck.
laptop microphones?
No,
They
they're
pick up fan noise,
not.
yeah?
They are
If
horrible. They're fan noise. If you start typing, you can hear that. Get
Yeah,
even just a simple USB headset. This is a
yeah.
simple Jabra. I don't even remember what the model is. It's so old. I've had it for years. It's my travel headset because it packs flat.
Yeah.
So when I go on the road, this is my headset. This is like I throw this in my bag as if I need to make a phone, a Teams call on the road. This is what I use.
I mean, I've got one of the. I don't use this for recording, but what is this? A
Hmm.
little Plantronics. I'm sure most of us have got these things lying
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
Even something like that is decent enough. And if you've got one of those lying around and it's Bluetooth, hook it up and use that as your
Yep.
microphone. I'm just looking around to
Exactly.
see what else. So I've heard many a debate
Uh huh.
over when if you kind of go a little bit up from something like that, either a Bluetooth headset or even a wired headset and a microphone,
Hmm.
and you take it to arguably the next level, you
Uh
start
huh.
to see mics like this.
Is that a
So
blue?
this is a very I wouldn't use the word cheap, but it costs me about 45-50 pounds
Hmm.
for that whole setup and the boom arm. Yeah.
Yep.
But you'll see what now why it's out of shop, because it's all wobbly and it falls about quite a lot now. But this is my next upgrade. I want to do
Hmm.
something with the mic, and you'll see that I've got an XLR connection. I've not got a
Okay.
USB, so I've been in, I wouldn't call them debates, but I've been in discussions with people around why would I want to use a USB or an XLR. And what you'll find when you're trying to get a microphone is that you kind of have to make that choice. And I know a lot of you've
Hmm.
got things like Elgato again. They've got their Wave 3 microphone. You've got the Blue
Right.
Yeti, and a
Yep.
lot of these are USB microphones. What do you use, Jared? Before I tell you why I use an XLR.
I use an XLR as well. Now, I have done something that is probably not what I would recommend to anyone
Mm-hmm.
because I have a Go XLR
Ah,
soundboard sound management system, which is USB into my device, my streaming device, and actually it's on that USB 3 switch. So I switch it between my doghouse system and my work NUC.
okay, yeah. But you
And
can actually put in
attached,
in so you can put sound effects and media
oh
in
yeah,
stream with your microphone.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, let's see here. I don't know if I have anything loaded on this profile. We shall see. Nope, but we can easily add something here. Because we can add something and up it's a little light. Let me I can see I can actually it has a full mixer, multiple channels.
Yeah.
and I can go in and say, the samples, let's turn that up and let's hear that again.
Uh,
Did you get that?
no, it didn't come through. I think I'm only getting
That's
you my.
because I can also route different things through the system. So I had samples, for example, shut off. So now I turned it back on.
No.
We have the
There we are.
lovely Joey Snow saying, no.
Yeah.
You know, I can do, and it's a lot of fun for me. I don't know. I sometimes think Joey, I know Joey hates it sometimes, but I can add things. For example, I added this the other day just because I love the movie and I thought it would be funny to use in my streams.
All right, Twinkle Toes, what's your exit strategy?
A line from my favorite movie, True Lies, and I thought it'd be perfect for when we're gaming and we need to figure a way out and have have that pop up in stream.
So that's the point, yeah. You're introducing that. You're taking it to the next level. You're introducing these kind of sound bites and little loops just to have a bit of fun, and you're throwing your camera on the floor as well, which is pretty cool.
I am, and I also have a low battery, so I'm going to plug in here real quick.
No worries. But I was going to say, Jared, in terms of the XLR, so I don't have a mixer as such, but I use a Focusrite, an audio interface, so much in the same way.
Yep.
So you'll see that I got two. Go on.
I got the arm. I got a Podcast Pro arm, and I have an Aston Stealth microphone. Now, this is a high-end audio microphone. This is meant for people who are doing work on special audio work. They are super high-end microphones. Because I've actually been told by a few folks that I should look at doing some voiceover work as a fun side business.
Absolutely, yeah. And having kit like that, that's where it kind of plays into its own. I suppose that's an interesting point you raise, because sometimes this elaborate spending can seem a little bit maybe, ridiculous to some people maybe, but if you can use that like investment in buying this kit and use it for other things, I think that's the one thing that I've realized in doing this elaborate setup. It's very much a multifaceted setup that I have now. So when we talk about high end, and I'll quickly tell you about the mic that I'm looking at now, but I use an audio interface, which is basically a conversion of multiple. So I've got a little Focusrite Scarlett 4i4, that is.
Okay.
What the 4 means is it's got 4 inputs. So it's got 2 on the front, which can be 2 XLR inputs. It's got 2 on the back, which are just your standard 1/4-inch jack mono inputs. But what I do is my middle daughter, she likes to record, she likes to sing. So I've got this setup with a condenser mic, and I've also got, if I turn my camera around, the trusty Shure SM58.
Great microphone.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like your standard professional, kit mic that would be used for vocalists on most, sort of band situation. And of course, the trusty electronic drum kit in the office, because why wouldn't you want an electronic drum kit in the office? It helps if you can play the drums. So I use that, and I use Pro Tools on this setup as well, I use Pro Tools first, which is free, to do recordings with the kids and help them learn how to actually do sound recording and music recording. So back to
music production.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it's about being able to help my kids learn some of these things that maybe you're not going to be able to do with don't get me wrong, you can now. These days, you can have a small laptop and install this kit because everything's so powerful. But it's about just kind of using it in various different ways. So, so you mentioned your mic then, Jared, is a high-end mic. And we started off talking about these, little USB or Bluetooth headsets. I know some people have got the lavalier mics as well, which are pretty cool. So you can kind of... One thing I notice is with the lavalier, obviously, I have to be quite close to this microphone with it being a condenser mic. But if I move over here, then my voice drops. And with a lavalier mic, you can kind of put a little wireless pack, and they're not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. So I guess if you're up and about and want to be animated and doing things around the room in a presentation, maybe that's something to think about.
It is.
So what are the benefits you see?
The lavalier to watch yourself. And that's because Rick uses a lavalier all the time.
Okay.
Is make sure it's attached properly in the proper spot because
Right. And we're back after another cut down. So yeah, you were saying about Rick positioning of the lavalier microphone then, Jared.
so what happens is Rick would put it on, he would wear like an undershirt with a shirt over it, and he would attach the lavalier to the undershirt, but his shirt over it would start rubbing it, and he would start getting like these kind of sounds as the mic. I don't know if it's
Yes.
coming through on my mic.
Yeah, slightly. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So, but it's good tips. So yeah, so it's just about if you do get one, just make sure you're not covering it up. And I'm sure
Or
it's
you're-
like
or you're
anything.
not rubbing, especially.
I mean, these things and the reason that you know these things is because you kind of lived through it. Yeah, you kind of had to deal with it, and that's the point of why we thought, well, we'll put this together and kind of impart some of this knowledge because save people some of the troubles. Right, I am conscious of time. I mean, we could probably do a multi-part series of this, Jared.
We could. There is one more thing I did want to cover real quick. And it's the lovely thing called lights. If you're doing video,
yes,
lighting is critical.
And do you know what? That's something that recently I've upgraded. And I say recently within the last 2 weeks, because I think when I first started doing this, I bought a very small ring light. You've gone vertical with your phone there. You've gone.
Yep. Because I was going to change and shut off my lights. And
so I bought.
People...
I can do the same actually, and it's probably worth. Yeah. So that's with no lights on your stream, and if I do the same, here we go. If I do the same now,
yep.
That's me.
Yep.
So
right now, I'm being side lit by outdoor light like crazy. I've actually opened up my my blinds, and the funny thing is, I have the primary light that you have is called the key light. And my key light is now acting like a fill light.
Yes.
Of the sunshine.
So I'm just holding my camera up so people can see there. So I've got two. There's one there and there's one on that side. So what do you use, Jared, in terms of...
I got some small LED panels. I'm trying to get my browser back open so we can show as I'm back. I have these little LED panels, and they're from B&H Photo. They're Smith and Victor, and they were $49.
Yeah.
And they have what they call a hot shoe attachment, so they can attach to a camera, or I've got them attached just to a little clamp, like a motorcycle clamp. I got that for $10, and it's attached to my monitor arm. My second one, which is normally my, so that's my key light, but it's filling right now. Over on the window, you can see a second one that's actually just on a little Gorilla Pod on my light.
Yeah.
And that one is, that's my fill light. And I normally use that cooler temperature light to fill because this is pretty bright and warm coming in this way.
But you're right. You're right to bring that up, though, Jared, because I think, especially if you want to try and get, I mean, yeah, cool. But especially if you're wanting to get a bit more of a, I don't know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with using the window light and positioning yourself next to a window and getting a decent amount of light on your face to start off. But I think for me, when you start recording, and of course, it's nighttime now in the UK, it's dark outside, so there is no natural light. Literally, I've lost your phone stream there.
Let me just redo that. Okay, there we go. I'm going to start it this way. Let me shut off the audio source. Hold on.
So just so people see what's going on.
So the thing not to do is to do this.
1 second. I'm going to have to add you back in. Bear with 2 seconds.
Sorry. No problem.
It's all right. No problem. I just got to find the right. There we go. Right source. So people can see what I'm doing. I'm just holding my camera up. So.
Yep. And this is the thing to avoid. Now I have the addition of this light. I wish I could shut it off real quick. But don't do this where you have a bright light behind you. See how dark I get with that bright light behind me, and it's like, oh hey, it's just too bright behind me.
Yeah. I mean, it's a valid.
Make
You see some
sure-
people sat in front of windows like that, and it is you just end up being like a silhouette, don't you? And
Yes,
um,
exactly.
I've lost. Oh, there we are. You're back. You're
Yeah,
back.
I'm
and
just
forth.
trying to switch it back to the back camera. Because OBS Ninja, by the way, for if you're doing anything, OBS Ninja is a great little tool to bring in people, so you don't have to use anything like Blue Jeans or Teams or Zoom or Skype. It's a great system.
No, and it's free. It's free, yeah. So that this
totally
system here, you can go to obs.ninja and you can start playing, bringing in lots of different sources and adding them as what they call browser sources in your OBS studio. So, I mean, just to stick on lights a second, Jared. Obviously, I'm pointing to that because I wanted to touch on Stream Decks because if we don't talk about Stream Decks at some point there, so. I recently upgraded because of that exact problem. I couldn't get enough light. So I used to have little ring lights and I bought these. I mean, you can see they're on now and I can turn them off via my Stream Deck, which is always nice and handy. But I can also control, like you were saying there, the brightness. So I can put them up and down. I can control the temperature. So you can see that's getting a bit cooler and a bit warmer. So that's for the two lights. Now, you might ask, why would you want to go and spend? Because these are the Elgato key lights, and arguably they're not the cheapest lights out there. There are definitely cheaper alternatives available, but it boils down to the amount of control that you want. And I guess if you're doing a presentation for work or something that you don't consider that there's any. Let's face it, I'm not exactly, setting the world on fire with my YouTube videos, but for me, it was about kind of learning about these things and investing a bit of money into something like this, just to kind of experience it for myself. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. I know. Someone we both know, John Flores, aka Buckeye Guy J Flow. He actually is using. He's got a setup. Unfortunately, he's moving to Ohio right now, so the setup is all packed up. But he's using Philips Hue lights, just with some baffles and some basic baffles and kind of reflectors and stuff. And you can even do it with even simple work lights that you go to, like a Home Depot, or I'm trying to remember the name of the chain in the UK.
B&Q.
B&Q, exactly. Go to your local B&Q and just get those $10 lights, and they'll work fine for what you're trying to do.
And I've got friends and colleagues that have done that. I've got a colleague that's actually made his own. He's bought some strip lighting, wired it all up onto like a metal back, so like a reflective back, and put some diffuser, like opaque plastic in front of it, and it looks cool and it works really well.
The best diffuser, by the way, cooking parchment paper.
Oh, okay,
cooking parchment. Here's the reason why. It's meant to go in the oven up to 450 degrees. So if it's near a light, it's not going to burn.
That's a pro tip. That is a pro tip, isn't it? So not just B&Q, but get to Tesco's or Sainsbury's and get yourself some.
Maybe go to Iceland. I don't know.
yeah, you could do. No, they do frozen stuff in the UK.
Oh, they probably do frozen stuff. Like the country. Excellent.
So, I mean, there were two areas I wanted to touch on before we wrap. I'm having so much fun here, to be honest, Jared. I think it is good.
We can do another session. What the heck?
We could at some point, couldn't we? There were two areas that I thought would be cool to touch on here. One was these Stream Decks that we've both got our cameras on now. I think it's probably fair to say a lot of people hear a lot about these things. Give us your take on them, Jared. What do you have two
I absolutely love it. You see that I have two here. The irony is, this was my home Stream Deck, and this was my Stream Deck from my office at work. And I would actually even set up to where I could, used to have when I was at work, I could punch a button and it would pull up a web browser with our operational dashboard. So I could quickly, like when I was on call, if I got an alert, I could push a button and see what was alerting.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, Jared. I'm scanning my office because it's hidden. It's hidden behind the clock. I was just go on. You carry on a second. I'll grab this in a sec.
No problem. These Stream Decks are extremely programmable, and that's one of the things that I've actually figured out recently. I can pull this up, and we can kind of show it on, via this here. But I actually have setups, for example, on my main Stream Deck when I'm in. Let's pull up my gaming. Let's say I'm doing Diablo. I actually have a whole setup of I gotta find I've changed this around a couple times. There we go. Start games. I have where I actually can say, okay, I'm 10 minutes to live. And if you see here, there's 22 actions it takes in preparation for me going live in 10 minutes. Including delays where it's all automated.
And that's pretty cool. I mean, that's just basically it's what do you want to do on your computer to automate something that might take you've got to move this window there, you've got to set that title there, you've got to open this application, you've got to switch a scene, play a transition, and you can kind of automate all these things. And that's what the Stream Deck is, isn't it? It's just it's a macro, it's a button enabled, so you can program every one of those buttons. And I think, I mean, it's cool actually that we've got the 3 different sizes available here, haven't we? So you've got the small, medium, and large, of course, because
I got the small and the regular, and you got the large. Next large.
Well, that was just because I was spending so much money at the time. I thought, what's another £100 going to do? It got to that point. But the cool thing I like as well is that you can kind of arrange things. And actually, Derek Campbell, who I had on my show tonight, funny enough, in conversation with, he told me about this when I first got it, that you can kind of arrange all of your... there's my mic. This is why I need a new boom arm. It falls over. So you can arrange all of these macros and buttons into little folders. So I've got one for my apps, I got one for controlling my lighting, and including, I might add, changing the colors on my keyboard.
Nice.
And the colors inside the computer.
Well, if you take a look here on mine, not only do I have it set up so if I'm over here on this guy, and let's go to my Twitch. And let me go to my Among Us. And there's my Among Us screen over here. See how it's switched this one? Or I can switch to Diablo or Xbox. They're all kind of the same right now.
Okay.
Or I can actually go into, that started me to this. And then from here, I can move into the separate scenes.
So to bring this...
all automated.
So to bring this back, now these are cool devices, but they do cost a fair whack. I think from memory that the big one was into the £200 mark. I think it may have even been sort of 220, 230. And I know they get progressively cheaper in whichever size you go for.
This guy, I believe, was 170 US, which I think is 150 pounds. And then this was like, I want to say I got it, I think, for 75, but that was on sale.
Yeah,
I want to say it's like 90 US.
So I think it's probably fair to say they're not the cheapest of devices, but this, I suppose you get one when you want to take it to the next level. And the primary reason why I got one is for when I'm doing these kind of recordings. Obviously, I've not shifted scenes too much, but literally, I mean, I'll do one just for the sake of showing that we can. But we could go back to my 2-cam screen. I could press this button here, and there we go. We go back. I can automate it. Or we can go back to the 4-cam, and there we go. So they're the kind of things that I initially bought one for, to kind of control when you're talking to a camera. You can have it down the side of you here, just pressing these buttons, and it kind of automates the flow, which is cool. But
it is.
One thing I just wanted to bring up, and there's a good friend of mine in the community, Peter Gallagher, and if you followed my videos and everything I've done, I've got into the world of IoT a lot. I actually made my own Stream Deck.
Nice.
With lots of wires. Now, for those that are watching this that are familiar, Peter Gallagher has actually got... So this is controlled via one of these Raspberry Pi Pico microcontrollers. So I wanted to touch on that because it's pretty cool. If you are a techie and you're wanting to learn that, go and search up Peter Gallagher and go and have a look at his GitHub repo of how to produce your own. Because, you know, at the end, okay, there are some barriers to entry here. Let's face it. You kind of need a 3D printer. So, you know, you need to have something like that. And patience.
I'll say this. Most everything that we can do on a Stream Deck can be done with keyboard shortcuts or some sort
Yeah.
of macro system. The Stream Deck, the two things it gives us is its own kind of management language where it can talk to specific software and specific systems. And then obviously you can see here, I mean, this is for the Patch and Switch podcast. I mean, I put the podcast logo as the button, which is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
And as you saw when I went into like the game mode, I mean, there's my Among Us, there's Diablo, and there's my Xbox.
and that is so simple to do, isn't it? Through the interface, and obviously that's really what you're paying for. Is this, cloud? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a little LCD panel behind the buttons. Mm-hmm. It is, but it's cool. I mean, and it's up to your own creativity what you use the buttons for and what you program them to do. I guess, isn't it? Because you can do pretty much lots of things.
I mean, I even have this set up where I can go to Teams and I can actually manage. You can see here specific Teams views when I'm on my computer and I want to do Teams. I also even have it set up for I have it set up for Lightroom. I'm starting to add certain things that I do because I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
And there are keyboard shortcuts for all this, or I can just press this one button on my Stream Deck.
Yeah. But it's fair to say, I mean, if you're getting started with OBS, even with OBS, I daren't click on settings whilst I'm recording, but you can go into the settings and you can, like you were saying, Jared, you can assign a keyboard shortcut for each scene. So you could press Control and 1, Control and 2, and you could literally flick between the scenes doing that. And fundamentally, that's all the Stream Deck is actually doing for you.
Exactly.
But just in a nice little glossy box with some nice flashy buttons.
It's that once you've seen a Stream Deck used, you're like, I need one now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Brad Sams from First Ring Daily and Tarot.com. And
right, I don't. Yeah, go on.
He saw somebody using a Stream Deck, and then he bought an XL. He bought a Stream Deck XL like within a week, and it's like, okay, I gotta get this.
But this is a very valid point, and I suppose we've been flashing our cameras round at our various laptops. I've got a little. Literally, my desk is cluttered through. I mean, that's the NVIDIA Jetson Nano. I've got a Raspberry Pi over there, sat there. I got one over. Whichever way I turn. And look, we're techies. I guess this is just what we do. Yeah. I mean, is there any need for it? Not. Well, if you ask us, then yeah, there's every need because it's good fun. But
I can plug in any of my surfaces to the dock that's hidden in here.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, like I say, I'm very conscious of the time now. Thank you for staying with me on this.
I'm clear, but you can, we need to be conscious of everybody else.
Yeah.
I would say as a wrap up, start with something, try something, focus on getting good audio and a clean set of light. Start with your webcam on your laptop. Buy a little webcam. You can start with like a $20 webcam. I bet it'd be great.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's so many other areas we could touch on. There's sort of the there's the audio dampening in the room to kind of sort your acoustics out, which is why I've got these grey things on the wall. Is to kind of help stop that slight little echo that you will probably notice when you start doing these things. And there are other things that we could talk about, but I think for the interest of time, I mean, I love this. This has been such good fun. Thanks, again, Jared, for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure. I had so much fun, John. Are you kidding me? This has been great. Like I said, we should definitely follow up and talk about those things.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of other areas that we could talk about. Maybe we will. We'll give it a few weeks or a month or two, and maybe we'll have another session and just and take it from there. But I mean, yeah, thank you again, Jared. I mean, let's wrap it up there because we could go on for another hour or two quite easily, couldn't we? I'm sure. We'll wrap it up there. I mean, if you're watching this and you've got comments or there's something that we've said that you don't agree, put it in the comments below. Reach out, say hello. I mean, if there's enough interest and Jared's up for it, then yeah, we'll do a second episode in a couple of months' time or something just to see.
I have a better idea, John. Let's do an episode in 3 to 4 months, and hopefully by then I can come over and see you.
Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it? That would be
wouldn't
cool.
it? Oh my goodness, I'm so ready. I'm so ready.
Oh, I think we all are. I think we've said it enough. I mean, obviously the global pandemic, we can't argue with what's been going on, but yeah, I think we're all probably going a little bit stir crazy and climbing the walls. But I mean,
this is one way to help yourself deal with it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I probably wouldn't have reached out to you had it not been for the pandemic. We wouldn't have been having this chat now. We wouldn't have been, talking about all our gadgets across YouTube and Twitch.
Yep.
Honestly, Jared, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I really have had a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
And we will. Well, I will no doubt catch you on the next Patch and Switch show and throw my comments in there to say hello. But we'll leave it there, and we'll catch up in a few months' time, like you say.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Jared. See you soon.